In the heart of ancient Rome, marble columns reached for the sky, and golden palaces gleamed under the Mediterranean sun. Tourists and historians alike still marvel at these ruins, symbols of power, grandeur, and a civilization that shaped the Western world. But behind these breathtaking monuments, behind every statue of an emperor or god, there was a truth too dark to carve into stone: the daily suffering of the powerless, hidden in the shadows where history preferred not to look. Among Rome's greatest untold horrors was a secret market in youth and beauty. Young men turned into concubines, their bodies traded like silk or gold to satisfy the elite. They were not gladiators fighting lions for sport. They were prizes to be owned, paraded, and violated, all while the city feasted and cheered for more conquest. If the walls of these palaces could speak, they would whisper about nights spent behind locked doors, laughter masking cries, and golden cups raised high above silent tears. Today, we remember Rome's victories, but few dare to remember the young souls sacrificed to build this empire's glittering mask. This is their story. When people speak of ancient Rome, they celebrate the empire's unmatched military conquests, its magnificent architecture, and its legal system that shaped modern law. We marvel at the Colosseum, the aqueducts, and the enduring legacy of Latin that echoes through modern languages. But hidden behind every triumphal arch and marble column lies a darkness rarely acknowledged in textbooks. Rome's glory was paid for by millions who never shared its power, farmers crushed by taxes, slaves who built its wonders, and young boys sold as living luxuries for the pleasure of the ruling class. These boys, male concubines, were a unique kind of victim. Neither free men nor ordinary slaves, they lived trapped between silk sheets and iron chains. To the world, they might seem pampered and protected. In truth, they were owned bodies, shaped to delight and entertain Rome's elite at any cost. Rome's greatest writers, poets, historians, philosophers recorded victories, moral codes, and the greatness of emperors. But between the lines of their scrolls hides an open secret. Beneath every marble triumph was a river of human misery that few dared to speak aloud. And at the heart of this river were the beautiful boys who could not run, could not refuse, and could not ever truly belong. Far from the marble halls and glittering feasts, another side of Rome thrived in the dusty backstreets and bustling ports, the human markets where youth, beauty, and innocence were traded for gold. Here, the Roman appetite for pleasure fueled an entire underworld economy hidden in plain sight. Young boys were especially prized. Some were captured during Rome's endless wars of conquest: Greek, Thracian, Germanic, their exotic looks fetching higher bids. Others were sold by desperate families, crushed under debt or famine, forced to sacrifice a son to save the rest from starvation. Buyers came dressed in flowing silks, their fingers heavy with rings, eyes scanning rows of trembling children as if selecting fine horses. The boys were forced to stand naked under harsh sunlight, inspected for teeth, posture, and skin humiliated before strangers, who debated their worth like livestock. The final moments before sale were the most terrifying. For the boys, it was the last instant of freedom before being claimed. A nod, a coin purse passed, and life as they knew it ended forever. Some screamed, some stood silent, eyes hollow, spirits already broken by the certainty of what awaited them behind palace walls. Beyond the auction block, hidden training schools shaped these boys into perfect concubines. Like gladiator schools for fighters, these places were factories of obedience. There, childhoods were stripped away and replaced with discipline, forced grooming, lessons in poetry, music, and seduction, all to prepare them for a master's bed and whims. Once purchased and trained, the boys were delivered to Rome's grandest households, mansions lined with marble corridors, private baths of scented water, silk sheets embroidered with golden threads. Outsiders might envy their surroundings and mistake them for pampered companions. But behind the silk was an iron cage no key could unlock. Their daily routine was defined not by their own desires but by their master's mood swings. At dawn, they were bathed, perfumed, and dressed in garments chosen not for comfort but for allure. By day, they might entertain guests with music or poetry. By night, they might be summoned to private chambers, no questions asked, no refusal allowed. The cost of disobedience or imperfection was swift and cruel. A misplaced word, a moment's hesitation, or even aging too quickly could mean being beaten, sold to a harsher household, or discarded altogether. Many learned to read their master's gestures and silences like Holy Scripture. Survival demanded it. For a few, luxury offered fleeting illusions of power. Some concubines became trusted favorites, allowed to travel with their master, draped in jewels, envied by other slaves. But this status was a double-edged sword. Affection could turn to rage overnight, and the higher they rose in favor, the more they had to lose when discarded. Despite the silks and feasts, these boys lived in constant fear and crushing loneliness. Forbidden from forming true friendships, cut off from their homeland and kin, they were ornaments in human form expected to smile, to obey, to endure. Their laughter was a mask. Their freedom, a dream never granted by the gilded prison that was Rome's richest home. Beneath the polished marble floors and silken sheets, an invisible war raged inside the minds of Rome's male concubines. To keep these young men compliant, masters employed a cocktail of fear, reward, and relentless isolation, an ancient blueprint for psychological control centuries before modern science gave it a name. The first lesson was unpredictability. One day, a concubine might be showered with affection, gifted rings, and honeyed words. The next, a careless glance or whispered complaint could invite sudden beatings or humiliating punishments before the entire household. This constant shifting taught them a cruel truth. There was no safe way to exist. Masters ensured that these boys never built trust or alliances. They forbade friendships and punished secret conversations. Some households kept multiple concubines but pitted them against each other for favors. Rumors, spying, and betrayal became daily poison, choking any hope of solidarity. Education, too, was a tool of control. Many concubines were taught music, poetry, and fine conversation, not for their own growth, but to make them more desirable companions. Every compliment they received reminded them they were perfect, only so long as they obeyed and entertained. Their knowledge was a chain disguised as praise. Over time, the mind itself could fracture under this invisible whip. Some boys clung to small acts of rebellion, secret thoughts, stolen moments of silence. Others broke entirely, becoming hollow shells smiling on command. In the empire's eyes, a perfect concubine was not just beautiful. He was emptied of self, remade as an ornament breathing only for Rome's pleasure. In Rome, even walls could be climbed or broken, but the chains that bound a concubine were forged deep inside the mind. Escape was not impossible in the physical sense. Some boys did run, slipping through back alleys or begging sympathetic strangers for help. But for most, the invisible cage was stronger than any doorbolt. Those who tried to flee faced punishments designed to terrify others into submission. Capture meant brutal whippings in public courtyards, branding of the body, or forced labor in the harshest conditions. These displays reminded every household slave and every concubine that Rome's mercy had limits and its cruelty none. For many, the only imagined exit was death. Some concubines whispered of poison or blades hidden under bedding. But masters knew this too well. They kept boys under constant watch, removed sharp objects, and locked doors at night. The body was property. It had to be protected, alive, until it lost its market value. And what of faith? Rome's temples promised justice and divine protection, but the gods of the empire were silent to the prayers of those who were property. Some concubines secretly turned to foreign cults, hoping for mercy or an afterlife where chains could not follow. Their whispered prayers were seeds of hope buried deep under fear. The suffering of Rome's concubines was not an accident. It was a system, deliberate and profitable. Powerful families competed to own the most beautiful, most talented boys, parading them as trophies at feasts or sending them to charm political guests. A concubine was not just pleasure. He was status carved in soft flesh. This demand created a hidden market spanning the empire. Traders scoured conquered provinces for the fairest children. Warlords sold captive to merchants. Desperate parents signed contracts that turned sons into commodities. Money flowed from the empire's core to its blood-soaked frontiers, a cycle fueled by human misery. Training schools emerged to meet Rome's appetite. Like gladiator schools turned boys into killers, these grooming academies turned children into ornaments of seduction and obedience. Here, masters broke wills, reshaped manners, and polished accents, an assembly line of human luxury for the empire's ruling class. Few spoke out. Roman philosophers could debate virtue and justice for citizens, but for concubines, silence reigned. Their suffering stayed hidden behind marble walls and poetic verses. This system, woven deep into Roman luxury and politics, shows how easily civilization dresses cruelty in silk and calls it greatness. In Rome, youth was currency, and like all currency, it lost value with time. For concubines, aging meant a slow fall from the silk-covered pedestal to the cold stone floor of indifference. A wrinkle, a faded glow in the eyes, a rival's younger face and favor could vanish overnight. Some were discarded gently, given menial tasks, pushed aside to the kitchen or stable once their beauty waned. Others were sold like worn garments to lower households, where the cruelty was worse and the rooms far colder. For many, the silks turned to rags as quickly as affection turned to disgust. A lucky few found secret escape routes, a kind master who freed them, or rare patrons who helped them vanish into distant provinces. But freedom was never clean. Most carried invisible scars, broken trust, nightmares, and an ache for family they might never find again. Their stories, rarely written down, survive in whispers and shadows. They remind us that behind Rome's statues of emperors and gods stood thousands of unseen lives used, forgotten, and left to crumble in silence when beauty was no longer enough to buy protection from an empire that prized youth above all. Rome liked to call itself the light of civilization, a city of philosophers, poets, and lawmakers whose ideas shaped centuries to come. Scrolls filled with noble words about honor, duty, and the rights of citizens still survive today, displayed in museums as proof of Rome's greatness. But these same thinkers, who debated ethics and virtue, rarely mentioned the living ornaments decorating noble villas. While they praised bravery on the battlefield and loyalty in politics, they looked away from the chained boys forced to smile through pain. Moral codes stopped at the edge of privilege. This silence is perhaps Rome's truest confession. Civilization can wear a mask of reason while hiding cruelty behind its statues and marble halls. Remembering these forgotten lives challenges us to ask what cruelties our own societies excuse today dressed, as ever, in beautiful words. The grand marble ruins we visit today tell only half the story. For every stone that survives, there were voices, silenced young lives offered up for another's comfort and pride. History polished the statues but buried the chains. Yet these lost voices reach us still. They remind us that civilization's brightest achievements often stand on invisible suffering. And they challenge us, centuries later, to ask, who pays the hidden price for the luxuries and freedoms we celebrate today? By remembering the concubines of ancient Rome, we do more than mourn them. We promise not to look away when new systems of exploitation hide behind modern marble walls. May their forgotten story remind us, true civilization is not built on silence, but on courage to see the truth and change it. History does not repeat itself, people do. The suffering of Rome's concubines should not be a forgotten footnote, but a mirror reflecting how easily power turns blind when profit and pleasure speak louder than conscience. If this story moved you, don't let it end here. Share it so these silent voices echo beyond ancient marble. Leave a comment, tell us what truths you see hidden in today's civilized world. Subscribe and join this journey to uncover the untold, the buried, the uncomfortable truths history left behind. In the ruins of Rome lie lessons for tomorrow. Let's remember, question, and never be silent again.